Hi everyone. So today I'm going to be presenting the learning activity that I designed for part 2 of our project. And the digital tool that I decided to use was Storyline Online to teach my second graders about how to identify main idea and the key details. And I used the story A Bad Case of Stripes. So one of the first things that I just want to touch on before I start going into the learning project is just why Storyline Online. So with this tool, it's a free literacy platform, and it allows actors and influential people and different students to read you highly interactive read alouds. And I think that there's a couple components that make it really instructionally powerful. And I think that's the combination of the expressive narration. So students are able to hear fluent readers, and they're able to hear correct pacing and tone and emotion. It also has high quality illustrations. So obviously you see the illustrations from the stories themselves, but it's cool because it zooms and pans in and out of each illustration. So it's not just like, oh, I'm up in the front of the room reading it. It's like panning it so they can see the whole photo. It has a very multimodal impact. So they're receiving the audio, the visual, and they're receiving the emotional cues from the story, depending on what story it is, obviously. It's super accessible because you're removing the decoding barriers. So for some of my second graders, decoding is very difficult for them. So this is removing those barriers and making it easier for them to understand the comprehension and be able to comprehend. And then there's also so much engagement, obviously, because they're listening to the read aloud, and they're not just listening to me read. They get to listen to someone that's pretty interesting read. So now moving into, this is slide 2 that I would show to my students, and this is the learning targets. So the learning target of the lesson is I can identify the main idea of a story and support it with key details. And they will know that they're successful by being able to tell what the story is mostly about, choosing details that support the main idea, and explaining how details connect. And obviously this would be visible throughout the lesson. I usually write it on a whiteboard. Then we move into building the background knowledge. So I want to be able to kind of see where they're at with main idea, and this would be something where I've already introduced it a couple of times, but I just kind of want to see where they're at, what they remember. So I might ask things like, what does it mean to be yourself? Why might someone hide what they look like? Or what happens when we worry about what others think? These are just kind of ways that we can make personal connections before we're reading the read aloud. Then I would move into refreshing them on what main idea is. So, talking to them about main idea is what the story is mostly about, and it's important that we don't just say what the story is about, but we support it with details. This sets the students up for success before we move into Storyline Online and the digital text, kind of giving them some background. So this is the link, and this is what we would show them next, where we're showing them the story. So I can link it right to the slide, which is really nice. And let's do a little bit of diving into just Storyline Online. I obviously wouldn't be doing this with my students, but since this is part of our project, I'm just gonna kind of give you a little bit more examples of why Storyline Online is so cool and it's so great to use with students. So obviously there's narration modeling. So students, like I said, are hearing reading that is with a lot of expression, and it's also supporting the comprehension and vocabulary. Like I said before, the illustrations, the emotional cues, and the pacing. So if I was to just play this real quick, and I'm just going to...
Hello, and welcome to the Screen Actors Guild Foundation. Dr. Bumble came to examine Camilla. Most extraordinary, he exclaimed. I've never seen anything like it. Are you having any coughing, sneezing, runny nose, aches, pains, chills, hot flashes, dizziness, drowsiness, short...
So, as you can see, I'm not going to play the whole video, but I skipped to a random part in the story, and the actor's using so much expression, so much tone. He's changing his voice, he's changing the pitch, and it's also doing the panning with the camera of the illustrations. It's not just him showing the pictures, it's the images going across the screen, so they're just really engaged while you're reading.
Shortness of breath or uncontrollable twitching?
Sorry about that. Did not mean to do that. So while they're reading, these would be on the whiteboard, and these would be different questions that I would be stopping the story as we go along, and I would be asking them things like, what does Camilla care about? What problems does she face? What changes are made by the end? And these are just all ways for them, obviously, to stay engaged, and I can gauge their comprehension and how they're understanding the story and what's going to happen once we do the main idea. So then when the story's all said and done, we'll do a turn and talk. We will talk about what the story is mostly about. And the reason I do the turn and talk is so that they're able to orally rehearse it, so that, they're kind of thinking about other people's ideas, but also their own. Then we would move into doing a class main idea chart, and I would do this on something unrelated to what we're actually doing, just so that we can kind of have a refresher on how to do it, but I'm not giving them too many answers because we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So I did an example of main idea being dogs make great pets. Detail 1, they're friendly, they can learn tricks, and they like to play. I'm giving multiple reasons, and my main idea and main topic that I'm trying to get across is that dogs make great pets. Then we would move into doing the whole class main idea. So basically, this is where we would incorporate the bad case of stripes. So we would be co-constructing the class main idea, and we would be coming up with one supporting detail, but then when they go off by themselves, they would be coming up with other supporting details. This is the part where they get to choose. So they get to decide which way they want to show me their thinking, whether they want to use the ice cream cone method where they're drawing pictures, whether they want to just do a few sentences or a few words, or they want to use the graphic organizer. But they need to tell me the main idea of a bad case of stripes, and they need to give me the supporting details. We just did, on the slide before this, the overarching main idea and maybe one supporting detail. But this is where they need to give me more of those details. I need to see if they can pull a different key idea from the text to support that that's the main idea. They get a lot of choice. It's differentiated to meet the needs of each of them. Like I said, here's one of the graphic organizers. This is the highest level. This is kind of like where I would want them to be to do the main idea and details being in second grade. But if we're not there, we have other differentiated options. Once they're all done, they do another partner share because I want them to be able to communicate their ideas effectively. I want to be able to listen to what they're saying to their peers and how they're connecting each other's ideas. Maybe one person has a different key idea than the other, and they can kind of bounce ideas off of each other and have those really good conversations. Then we would end the lesson by doing a reflection. So what helped you figure out the main idea today, what was challenging for you, and what are you proud of. This helps students internalize their strategy and hopefully remember how to do this process as we keep practicing it throughout second grade. So just to kind of wrap up this, my learning activity with this PowerPoint and Storyline Online, and also just kind of talking about the digital tool itself, I chose this tool because it provides multimodal access, it provides fluent modeling, it's super engaging, all of which support comprehension. And then the slide deck adds the structure, the clarity, the UDL design to ensure that every student can participate meaningfully. Together, all of these elements create a lesson that's both instructionally strong and also really realistic for the classroom. And I hope that you guys enjoy my presentation.